You were saying that most people have been following Satan this entire time while they thought they have been following Jesus.
Facts. My personal opinion is that the Bible is orchestrated and remixed in a way by this entity in order to lead human beings to their own demise. And that human beings themselves have been following and worshiping Satan this whole time. I began to do this whole report is how many people were really being killed by God and versus how many people were being killed by Satan. Approximately 3 million people were killed by God in the Bible, and Satan didn't kill anybody.
Oof.
And I was going, I just can't believe that this book is 100% about the creator of the universe. I believe that there's a God, but I also believe that the entity being written about in some of these texts is written by men and remixed by men. What is God? God is a frequency.
Yeah.
And it's our job to tune in. We've attributed God to a giant white
Sky
man.
Daddy.
Sky Daddy with the white robe, the big beard, and the magic wand to grant all of our wishes. And we want to turn God into a slave versus being in the same frequency with that energy and understanding that that energy that exists throughout the entire known universe is also inside of every atom in your body. You're going to rely on this one book for your eternity. We got a problem here. And you spend your life defending a false identity. Most people have no clue who they are.
Okay, dive into it, Billy. How can people uncover themselves?
The first step is
welcome to Vault Powers Talks, where we don't just scratch the surface. We dive deep into the lives of some of the world's most influential change makers. I'm your host, Brandy Harvey. But before I introduce my guest for today, I need you to go ahead and do me a favor. I need you to go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss your daily dose of inspiration and motivation. Now, I don't never give a little preface to these interviews, but I feel like this one might buckle your seat belts for this one. This is going to take y'all into a whole other dimension today. Billy Carson is the founder and CEO of Forbidden Knowledge Incorporated, the 4-time best-selling author of the Compendium of the Emerald Tablets, Woke Doesn't Mean Broke, the Epic of Humanity and Fractal Holographic Universe. Mr. Carson is also the founder and CEO of Forbidden Knowledge TV, a conscious streaming TV network, the host of the Forbidden Knowledge podcast, and the co-host of Biohack Your Best Life podcast. Among his most notable achievements, Billy is the CEO of First Class Space Agency based in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Recently, Mr. Carson earned the Certificate of Science with an emphasis on neuroscience at MIT and has a certificate in ancient civilization from Harvard University. He is also a writer and contributor for Entrepreneur Magazine and the winner of the 2022 Stellar Citizens Award. Billy Carson believes you are more powerful than you even know, and they fear the day you discover it. Vault Empowers Talks welcome husband, father, researcher, thought leader, and global teacher, Billy Carson, to the show.
Wow, thank you for that amazing introduction.
I am like so excited to have this conversation with you. I think you are one of those people that gets us all to think deeper, to dive deeper, to go deeper into things that we probably never even thought we were going to tackle.
Yeah, well, that's the ultimate goal, is to, I think, question everything, not in a way where you're challenging just to be a rebel, but to actually really question things and force yourself to look for the answers to those questions. And as I began to do that, I wanted other people to do it. I didn't want to be the only one that I felt like was gaining a certain level of knowledge. Because if I hoard the knowledge and I'm the only one with it, what good does that do the world?
Yeah.
Knowledge is not power, but the application of knowledge is power. And I want people to get knowledge and apply it in their lives.
I love when you say the application of knowledge is power, because this has been a real journey for you. 1977, you're 7 years old, and you have your first encounter with extraterrestrial life.
Yeah, it was weird. I was just out in the backyard, as you know, back then. No 4 channels on TV, and the 4th channel you had to really tune it in. You might not even pick it up that day.
And kids actually played outside. You said something that's like that's like a long gone thing.
Listen, no video games, no cable TV. Play outside. And I'm looking up in the sky watching airplanes go over, because they amaze me that an airplane can travel fast. You know it's traveling fast, but when you look up at the sky, it's moving slow. And as this airplane is going over, I'm watching how long it takes to clear the horizon, and I'm back in my backyard doing flips and all kind of stuff, playing in dirt. And one time I look up and I see this object that clears the horizon in seconds, not minutes, and it just blew me away. And I went, wow, what was that? And then it came back, and then it stopped, but this time much lower. And then it just hovered silently, glowing orb, a little bit longer, elongated than an egg, but not as long as a cigar, kind of in the middle. glowing metal-ish type. And it just went, and it was gone the way that it came in, opposite direction. And I was blown. I ran in the house. I said, Mom, you won't believe what I just saw. I described everything to her. And that's when she said, she just stayed calm. Sit down, son, let me tell you something. There's been more advanced beings on this planet. She didn't say aliens, she said advanced beings on this planet in the ancient past. And everything that's been done has already been done. There's nothing new under the sun, which is from Ecclesiastes in the Bible. And she told me that there were ancient airports and these beings used to live on top of mountains. She said, you need to go to Machu Picchu, which I made one of my life's goals. And when I finally got there, I understood. And that's why I dedicated my first book to my mom.
Yeah.
And so, but that was in the 70s, and she had this knowledge already.
That is the thing that fascinated me the most, because, you know, oftentimes we, you know, think of Black mamas, you know, who are definitely Christian evangelicals, you know, who are like, that's not, no. We don't do that. That's not of us, you know, all the things. But your mom was so open, and she had, you know, such a receptive, you know, life to say, let me tell you about this.
Yeah. And her knowledge was just based on her own research.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of influence about aliens and UFOs in the 1970s. She clearly had some experience, had learned some things on her own and done some of her own research and come to her own conclusions. But that pretty much opened me up to be a person that was open. I had already come to some conclusions just in doing, my father would make me do book reports on the biblical text, on the Bible.
Yeah.
On book reports on the Quran, book reports on the encyclopedias. And so I already began to see different things that contradicted each other within a lot of information. So my mind was already kind of forming a lot of questions. But when she told that to me, it really then truly opened me up to explore and not be afraid to ask questions and seek answers.
Yeah, because by 12 or 13, you were now questioning the contradiction of the Bible.
Right.
Yeah.
A lot of contradictory information, because you hear that God is good all the time.
And all the time.
And as he was then, he is now.
Yeah.
But then I'm going, I just did a book report in the book of Deuteronomy. It wasn't that good because
I want you to go here, Billy, because I love this conversation that you have about the book of Deuteronomy.
A lot of people were, you know, being sent across different parts of the world, in my opinion, the world, but in the biblical text, let's say regions, to go and destroy other people. In the book of Deuteronomy, God himself orders people to go out to other locations, to other towns and cities. And it could be for any reason. One reason was because one person there spoke ill against me. One person. So God tells his team of warriors to go out, kill the women, kill the children, burn down the city, and bring the spoils of war back to me. And I'm going, wait a minute. Why does God need spoils of war? Yeah. Why must women and children die? And it even says that if you find any virgins among them, you can keep them as your wives. Now we have, we have abduction, we have false imprisonment. And I'm going, this don't sound like a great entity or a great being. And so as I read more into it, I see other areas in the biblical text where, man, this sounds like a great entity or a great being, someone that you definitely would want to be a part of or be a part of you. But then in other areas, there was like a lot of murder, killing, and torture. And so I began to do this whole report is how many people were really being killed by God and versus how many people were being killed by Satan. And as I got through my entire report, my complete research, which took about 3 years, I discovered that approximately 3 million people were killed by God in the Bible, and Satan didn't kill anybody.
Oof.
And I was going, I just can't believe that this book is 100% about the creator of the universe. I believe that there's a God. Let me preface this. I believe that there's a God, and I believe that God exists. I think that the quantum physics proves that we're living in a creation and that we're all imbued with divine energy and frequency, which I believe can be used for good or can be used for bad. But I also believe that the entity being written about in some of these texts is written by men and orchestrated by men and remixed by men in order for men to implement and put their boot on the necks of others for various different reasons, whatever their agenda is. If you're a creator that's creating universes and creating life and has all this omnipotence and omniscience, why in the world would you say, you know, let me fly back to this little planet, this blue dot in the suburbs of the Milky Way and imbue these people to go torture and murder and kill women and children real quick before I get back to creating some stuff?
Yeah.
It just doesn't add up. So what it tells me is that a lot of the text in the Bible is manufactured by human beings.
Well, I mean, let's talk about King James.
Yeah.
King James. King James. Let's talk about it. King
James' #1 best-selling book is his book on sorcery and witchcraft.
I know.
Okay, so that's what he really was known for. A lot of people don't know that that's his best-selling book, not the Bible. Yeah. King James also was a pedophile.
A pedophile.
Right, so he's a pedophile. So you're talking about a man that has no real morals, that is into dark energy and dark magic. And then, of course, he's now saw an opportunity to profit from putting this book together. And this book is heavily curated by the Council of Nicaea in King James.
Constantine.
Yes, Constantine, under the Pope's order, to create this, this book, which they call the Canonized Bible, which people have the illusion that it was written in real time. In other words, somebody's following around. Hey, Jesus, say that one more again, because I just didn't get that last sentence you said. Hey, Moses, can you repeat what God said to you on top of Sinai? I mean, come on.
Yeah.
The Bible was written long after these people were dead and gone. Okay. And again, when it gets down to being a prophet, I can predict that I'm going to pick up this glass of water and then I can pick it up. Prophecy fulfilled. You see, so when things happen after the time, after the event has already happened, when you write down things after the event is already,
you created an environment in which I could discover who I really am.
Already happened. You can create all kinds of prophecies in there.
I mean, I love this. You know, in your book, you say that the most important lesson, frequency and vibration, have a direct effect on our reality and can even alter current and future events.
That's right. Absolutely. So we're talking about the fact that what is God? God is a frequency.
Yeah.
And it's our job to tune in.
It's our job to tune in. Yeah. I love when you say that. I love that in your book. Yeah. God is a frequency. It's our job to tune in.
We've misconstrued what God really is. We've attributed God to a giant white
Sky Daddy.
The Sky Daddy.
Sky Daddy.
The Sky Daddy, the white robe, the big beard, and the magic wand to grant all of our wishes. And we want to turn God into a slave. Oof. Every time something goes wrong, please God. And we're ordering God and we're ordering Jesus to take care and fix these issues and problems nonstop. And we're trying to enslave what our idea or concept is of God or Jesus versus being in the same frequency with that energy and understanding that that energy that exists throughout the entire known universe is also inside of every atom in your body.
Yeah.
And to know how to walk in that power and command and wield that energy into your life. Instead of hoping, begging, and wishing, to begin to understand you can command your realities. You have a certain level of control, not the massive level where you can create a planet, but because we're a fractal of the God whole, we have a certain amount of power imbued in us. And the proof of that is all around us because we're living in a world that has been manifested and created by humans.
Yeah.
The microphone is created by humans. The clothes I'm wearing created by humans. The camera's created by human beings. All from conscious thought manifested into solid reality, to the third dimension. So we ourselves are co-creators in this reality.
Yes.
And we take it for granted every single day. We think we have no power, but we do.
Like I'm already in love with this conversation. We think we have no power, but we do.
Yeah.
In your book, you talk about, in the Emerald Tablets, you talk about how the Emerald Tablets came 36,000 years before Jesus even walked the earth.
Yes.
And Jesus, when we talk about Jesus, he was a student of the Egyptian mysteries.
Yeah.
He learned reincarnation. He learned what else? In India, right? In meditation.
In India, he learned the mystic arts. In Tibet, he learned Qigong and Reiki, healing with the hands.
Yeah.
Confirmed by the Dalai Lama, by the way, in recent times. As the information has been handed down and passed down from Dalai Lama to Dalai Lama. This was confirmed through also Robert Grant, who visited with the Dalai Lama, verified just a few years ago, not too long ago. And teaching reincarnation all the way back into Egypt. The place in Egypt where he was actually a child is still there. I take people there every single year on tours because now it's like a sacred crypt in Coptic Cairo. And the bed that he slept in is still there till this very day. People travel from all around the world every single year to come see the place where he laid his head. And then there's a map outside the Coptic church that shows his path as he traveled throughout Egypt, learning and gaining more knowledge and information. And then, of course, this information, by the way, people, where's this information? It's in the Gospel of the Holy 12. a little known gospel that was kept out of the canonized Bible.
I got this book. I have not been able to read it yet. When I was researching you, I saw you talked about this book. So it is on my desk right now to read because I'm so excited to delve into it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so he disappears at the age of 12 from the biblical text and reappears at the age of 32 in the Bible, where God says, I call my son out of Egypt. More verification that he was in Egypt. That's exactly where he was. I call my son out of Egypt. He turns up riding on the back of a donkey, declares himself to be the Messiah, according to the biblical text. But the thing that we're missing here is Jesus is just one of many Christs that existed. The term Christ is the Christos, the crystallization of consciousness, is an ancient term that goes back eons, long before. It's known about since the time of the Emerald Tablets, that Thoth talked about when he wrote the Emerald Tablets, and he wrote the Emerald Tablet singular also, which is located at Cambridge in the UK. The Emerald Tablets themselves, the plural version, is located in the Vatican archive at this moment. But you can see that the teachings of Jesus are matching up with the teachings of Thoth the Atlantean.
Yes.
And this is crazy because who is Thoth? Thoth he calls himself an Atlantean priest king who ruled over the land of Kemet. This is before it was called Egypt. Pre-dynastic. For 16,000 years, one man ruled over that land. Not according to Billy Carson, not even according to him. This is according to the ancient Egyptians and the Egyptian Kings list, which is located at the back of the Temple of Seti, leading to the Temple of Osirian, or the Osirian Temple, which we were just there a few weeks ago. And so this guy, this being, really, in my opinion, is a man. His teachings in the Emerald Tablets are what I believe that Jesus, or really his name is Yeshua. That's his real name. His name isn't Jesus, by the way. The J is a more recent letter. I believe it was in the 1800s that the J just came to be. So when you're calling on Jesus, you're really saying Isus. And when you call on Isus, you're calling on Zeus.
Zeus. I learned this in your teaching.
Yeah.
You call on Zeus.
You're calling on Zeus. You're not calling on the person you feel is like God or the right hand of God. You're calling on Zeus, which Zeus dates back to the ancient Sumerian tablets beyond the Greeks. Translates his name back into either Anu or Enlil, depending on the Babylonian or Akkadian text. So you're calling on some brutal rulers. You're not really calling on the name of Jesus. You're calling on people that masqueraded as gods in ancient times. But Jesus's information in the New Testament of the Bible, as you look at it side by side, which I do in my book, Emerald Tablets, 36,000 years ago, Jesus, 2,000 years ago, you begin to see, wait a minute, he's saying the same thing. This is proof that either that his teachings came from this ancient wisdom, or maybe he is an incarnate of Thoth himself. It could be either of the two. I mean, it's up for speculation, but the words that he's speaking were already spoken tens of thousands of years prior. He's regurgitating something he learned, or maybe he's teaching, in terms of him being the reincarnation of this entity. And people say, well, there's no reincarnation in the Bible. Well, I've done this Bible about 200-300 times back and forward. The Bible says specifically, you will not be spirits without bodies. You will be given a new name and a new body.
Yeah.
And you will not, it says not, you will not be a spirit without a body. And so what does that mean? That means you're going to be reincarnated, just like a video game. You mess around and don't clear the level, you get another chance. Video games are just a fractal of what we're living in, this consciousness that we're living in. We only recreate things digitally that are already innate in our DNA. So, we're talking about the fact that they're talking about reincarnation. And people don't want to admit it. They don't want to dive deep into it because we've been taught the opposite.
Yeah, you say this. I have so many notes though, because it's like, wow, you have so much information out here. But one of the things you said, when you talk about the message of Christ, you talk about Christ consciousness. It's a second coming in the mind. And you said that if people know too much, they will have too much power and too much independence. This is what disturbs those who try to hold secrets of the kingdom while also trying to control people by that knowledge.
Yes, facts. The whole secret to power and control is to dominate every aspect.
I guess it's like, I don't need those. I guess it's just saying, Brandy, you don't need these notes. You know this information. Listen.
That was a mic drop.
That was a mic drop. It was. Listen.
The secret of control and power and domination is to control the flow of information. only 5 corporations own all the media companies, and they control the complete flow of information that we see on TV, which is why I don't watch the news, because the news will poison you and will trigger your fear mechanism and have you in fight or flight 24/7. And once you're in that mode, they can bend you and mold you into any particular way they want. They can make you take the Jabberwocky, you know what I mean? They can make you, do things that you don't want to do. They can make you argue with your family over right wing and left wing and Baptist and Pentecostal. I mean, they can really control you, and they can take away your rights too. They can easily snatch rights away from you through fear. And so, but that technique is not new. That's an ancient technique that you find in all these ancient texts, tablets, scriptures, papyruses, and even in the biblical texts. You discover the fear tactic is the most widely used tactic to control people. You know, you're going to burn in a lake of fire if you don't take Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. Well, where did this lake of fire come from? Let's look into that. I did. The Roman Catholic Church added that to the biblical text. You know, we're going to be raptured away while the infidels or the non-believers are just stuck here suffering on the planet. John Nelson Darby, 1830, added that to the Bible as a cliff note, which eventually worked its way into doctrine and teachings.
Let me tell you, Billy, the Rapture, it was a movie that came out when I was like in high school. And when I tell you that movie had me so shook, they watched it as a movie night at church.
I remember it.
Everybody was watching the Rapture, and I just spent every day like, I hope I'm not gonna get caught up in the Rapture.
Yes.
But I think what has helped me on my own spiritual journey is that I have not been afraid to question what I believe. I have not been afraid to question. And most people are not willing to question. They have, taken the program pill and they're just programmed to whatever has been that's been told to them.
Right. Well, you see, they're afraid. That's the big fear. If I question, that's going to put me in a situation where I'm questioning God. I got to have the blind faith. The Bible says my people die for a lack of knowledge. I'm going to throw the Bible right back on them, because there's 2 sides to the Bible. One side telling you to ask questions, dig deeper, get the knowledge, seek, become a seeker. And the other side of the Bible is telling you to shut up, be quiet, be a good slave. Even in the New Testament, people are like, there's no slavery in the New Testament. Yeah, there's slavery in the New Testament. The letter to Ephesians says, honor your slave master as you would honor me, talking about Jesus. So what are we looking at here? Who's writing this stuff? Is a all-knowing, all-loving God who has omnipotent and omniscient powers going to approve a race of people being completely enslaved? And also, is this person who's saying, I'm the master of all creation, going to give chosen people specific lands that they can rule over? What do you mean chosen people? We're all supposed to be chosen people. We're all human beings, but there's a chosen people within the human race that has this extra benefit. It even talks about the fact that they'll be allowed to the inner gates, while the people that aren't the chosen ones, you can get to heaven, but you can't come in the gate. I mean, come on. So this is all divide and conquer tactics. This is separation tactics. This is human beings, man, who put their pants on one leg at a time, writing information down to create their own agenda, to propagate their own agenda and put their boot in other people's necks and have this superiority complex above others. It's not the creator of the universe.
I mean, if people even look to how movies, right? Certain movies, The Book of Eli, one of my favorite movies.
Oh, great movie.
Right? One of my favorite movies. But you see why it was so important to find the Bible. Because if I get it, I need to be the one to have it. How else will I be able to control these people?
I'm the only prophet of God now, because I'm the only one with this text, and I'm the one who can teach you the way it's supposed to be. Now I got control, power, and domination. You see, what the Bible's tapped into is understanding that there's only one force that exists throughout the known universe. And that force can be used for good or it can be used for evil. Just like in the Star Wars series, there's the Jedi and the Empire. They use the same exact force. It's the only one force. But depending on how you want to manipulate that force, you can destroy people or you can uplift people. If you look at all of these secret societies, the Skull and Crossbones, Illuminati, there's probably another 100 of them that have come out. You track back all the original teachings, they go back to the ancient mystery schools when they were all about love, light, peace, enlightenment, enrichment, higher understandings of sciences and philosophy. And then as these beings that were the ones propagating this knowledge and information disappeared for whatever reason, then these men generations later who had this secreted and sacred knowledge began to continue to propagate it, but realized the power it can have over people, to sway people, to dominate and control people, so they turn dark. Again, the same exact knowledge, but you have a choice. This is a free will universe, evil or good, yin and yang. And that's unfortunately the way a lot of this has gone. And people are today in this current era are still thinking that they're worshiping the creator of the universe in their heart, which is okay. But a lot of the times what they really have been looking at, they've been looking at something that's been manipulated into complete darkness and has them in a state of fear. And a lot of them are only doing this because they don't want to be left out, just in case the information is right. It's talking about self-preservation now versus love. When you have that level of fear and that level of domination over you, there is no love in that. It's an illusion of love based on the fear and based on the hate and also the separation. And that to me is not my God. My God is not into that stuff.
I always tell people, I believe that God is so big and so vast that he would not only make one way to get to him.
Yeah.
And I can't, and really what made me question this is that I was dating somebody who was a Muslim in college.
Okay.
And of course, then I was like, oh, I think I'm gonna join the Nation of Islam or something, you know?
Right.
So I went going down a whole deep dive on the Nation of Islam, right? Yeah. All the things. But I remember thinking this is one of the nicest guys that I've ever met.
Yeah.
Servant's heart, good to people, kind to people, a loving man. And you're telling me that because he doesn't follow Christ, he's not going to see heaven.
That's what they tell you.
And I knew in college that, wait a minute, this is not it.
Something ain't add. The math ain't mathing.
The math ain't mathing. And it really forced me then, because I started going down the seeking of, the Islamic faith and all that, it just started, let me go look at all these other texts. Let me start. So when people come to my house and they come to look at my bookshelf, I got all the texts.
Smart person. You're smart. That's a sign of intelligence.
Yeah.
You see, because what you've done is you're taking in all the information and you're just discarding what doesn't vibrate with you, what doesn't resonate with your soul.
Yeah.
And I think that's the way that everyone should do it, At my wedding that I had last year, I had Christians, I had Muslims, at my wedding. People this guy's against all. No, I'm not. I love everybody.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to show you there's another way. There's other ways. And the fact that what you're saying is right. One of my greatest friends right now, his name is Muhammad Ibrahim. He's an archaeologist and a scientist out of Egypt. I was just with him a few weeks ago, him and his beautiful wife, Noha. And they're Muslims.
Yeah.
And these are some of the most incredible, most beautiful, and nicest people you'll ever meet in your life. These people will give you the shirt off their back. If I call him right now and say, I'm in Texas and I'm stuck somewhere, he'll hop on a plane and fly from Egypt here to take care of the situation if he had to. And you're talking about people that have pure souls and just incredible human beings. And you're telling me that this man, his heart is not lighter than a feather. He can't make it past the gate. So that's when I started realizing, man, there's just so many contradictions. And I think that if we don't get too upset with ourselves that, oh my God, this guy's saying all this stuff against God. I'm not saying anything against God.
No.
What I'm doing is I'm exposing human beings for what they've done. I'm exposing the agenda-based information, the rhetoric, and all of the dogma that has been pushed on you. Like I always say, when you're born, you're given a name, a race, and a religion, and you spend your life defending a false identity. Most people have no clue who they are. Who is Billy Carson? I had to ask myself that question.
Okay, dive into it, Billy. Okay. Because how can people start to uncover themselves in this process as they walk through life and become seekers and try to attain more knowledge and wisdom? Because that's really our goal, is to attain more wisdom.
Yep. And the first step is facing your fears. False evidence appearing real.
Yeah.
Everything they told you that has got you so afraid to ask questions and look deeper, it's false evidence appearing real. Get past your fears, because on the other side of fear is greatness. And once you get past that initial fear, oh my God, I'm questioning. No, you're not questioning anything. You are doing what you're supposed to do. You're looking deeper. If you're going to rely on this one book for your eternity.
Oh, come on.
One book.
One.
This is your eternity.
One.
And I can ask you 10 questions and you can't answer maybe but one. We got a problem here.
Yeah.
Okay. When I ask you questions about this book that you're counting on for your eternity and you don't have the answers to those, but you love God so much. And well, if you love your wife, you're going to know what kind of flowers she likes. You're going to know her birth date. You're going to know her mother, her father's name, her sister, her uncle. You're going to know a lot about your wife, right? Or your husband, because you're in love with them. Well, how come people don't know a lot about the information that's in that book based on the love they're supposed to have with Jesus and God? They only know mostly a few verses that they've been given for decades by the pastor. And that's usually about it, very surface information. So when you dig a little bit deeper, you begin to realize that there's a much grander and much bigger story. And to understand who you truly are, you have to face those fears and you have to begin to ask questions, right? So why is God in one part of the book killing people and in the other part he's supposed to be all love and all? Let me look a little deeper into this.
This is always the thing that always kind of gets me to jump a little bit. My God is a vengeful God, right? My God is a jealous God, right? We've given God humanistic characteristics, right? We've given it human characteristics. And so even when they say, when they talk about people talk about being in relationships, they say, I want a man that fears God, a God-fearing man. And I say, I want a God-loving man.
Yeah.
I want a man that loves God.
Yes.
Because I don't want you walking around scared.
Yeah, I know. Come on.
Well, what we about to do? You jumping? You on the edge?
Yeah, how you gonna protect me?
Yeah.
See, I'm glad you brought that up. And the understanding that this fear is the biggest problem. This is where people don't get it. Like if they can really grasp it, getting past the fear, and then getting past the fear, and then beginning to ask themselves, well, who truly am I? Because this name was given to me. This faith was given to me. Why is this the only real faith? Why is this the only legitimate one that's going to get me to eternity? Let me start looking into that. Let me do what you did. Let me start reading other texts and other books and other scriptures and papyruses and so on. Let me do some research so I can gain a much broader picture of what's going on. And when they do that, they're going to begin to discover that a lot of the biblical text is coming from older ancient tablets. For example, dividing the waters from the waters. That comes from the Enuma Elish and the 7 tablets of creation. All right, which is a 6,000-year-old text, but even that version is a copied version from more ancient versions, which go back tens of thousands of years. And understanding that a lot of the ancient, the Old Testament is the generations of Isis. Okay, and where do you get that? Again, from Sumerian cylinder scrolls. So Genesis is generations of Isis. The Genesis is the generations of Isis. Why? Because Isis gave birth to the Adamu thousands of years before the Bible was written. What does Adamu mean? It means first man. So when you begin to realize, like, wow, I'm reading information that's kind of obscure and taken and copied and pasted almost, right? Yeah. Into these papyruses and scriptures that were discovered in caves, and then somebody curated that information and put it all together, there's a much bigger picture. Then you say, well, let me go get the Apocrypha text, all the stuff that was left out of the Bible. And then you start going, oh man, this is crazy. Then you get the book of Enoch and you discover angels coming down and teaching human beings how to make weapons and swords so they can cut a man's head off. And you're going, wait a minute, something ain't right here.
Yeah.
And then you begin to say, okay, you'll see that there's a bigger picture that you haven't seen until you now have done the research. And now you can get to understanding that, yes, I believe in God. Yes, I believe in the creator of all. However, some of the information in here might not be it. And I say it because I don't give God a gender. I don't believe that this masculine based mindset of God is accurate. Okay. Because as far as I know, all life comes from a womb. And so now we've attributed this manly, this gender of a man to this entity, and what has been done to women over eons. They've been completely oppressed and suppressed. Even until this current day, in some of these countries I go to, women are still heavily suppressed. They can't even show their eyeballs. They got to wear full mask and shades.
I was just in Abu Dhabi last week. Yeah. I was just in Abu Dhabi. And, people ask me, like, would you want to live here? I think it's a beautiful place. And, I love the culture and the people. But it almost makes me, like, look at it like, well, a woman has no choice of what she... And then most people say, well, that's her modesty, and that's for her husband, and that's for her, to be at home, and no one should be able to see her, But who said that?
Yeah, exactly. That's more masculine. That's more toxic masculine dominance.
Yes.
And you can see it from the fact of giving the Godhead the masculine energy, and then having the Godhead say, I'm a jealous God, and I'm this, and you better fear me, and I'm going to destroy you.
Yeah.
And I'm going to kill these people. I'm destroying Sodom.
The wrath of God.
The wrath and all these things. And it's like, wait a minute, what happened to all the love?
Yeah.
You have all this power and all this ability to create and all this knowledge, but you can't come down and teach the people in the way that which they should go. If I've got a family, right? I got 6 kids. And if I see my kids doing things wrong, what does a good father do? He steps in and he begins to teach. I don't step in and start smacking and kicking and punching and throwing down and casting out and all that. Get out of my house.
Plagues.
Right. Some people do that, but that's a toxic environment. That's not real parenting. Real parenting is showing love, understanding, and teaching.
Yeah.
So if I'm able to do that in this flesh, in this, lower dimension, a being from a higher dimension with all-knowing power that can create this dimension and many others, can't seem to step in and actually correct things before they go awry, knowing that this person supposedly has knowledge of the beginning and the end.
Yeah.
And that leads me into one more thing before you ask me the next question. The devil is, according to the book, the Bible, Satan is all-powerful. Lucifer is all-powerful, almost all-knowing. He can whisper into the ears of millions of people. He has this, he's not even an angel, he's a cherubim, which is above the angels. Everywhere he went, music followed him, right? And so now, this entity, to be that smart and that intelligent, his IQ has to be in the thousands. Forget hundreds. An average human IQ is 75. Einstein was only 140. This being's IQ has got to be in the thousands, maybe even the tens of thousands. And so you got to tell me that this entity with all this wisdom, all this knowledge, and this high IQ, high intelligence, that has all these powers, is going to follow every word in this book written by human beings, a lower person, a lower entity than he even feels he is, written by human beings to its own demise.
Yeah.
He's going to follow this word for word to his own demise and for all eternity. I seriously doubt that. My personal opinion is that the people who wrote the non-commodity scripts are accurate, that the Bible is orchestrated and remixed in a way by this entity in order to lead human beings to their own demise. And that human beings themselves have been following and worshiping Satan this whole time by calling on Jesus and calling on God, which is really Enlil, Yahweh from the ancient Sumerian tablets, not really truly understanding the real God connection.
Billy, slow down. Slow down. Slow down. It was a power punch you just gave in literally 15 seconds. Yeah. Okay, go back. Yeah. Rewind the track.
Okay.
You were saying that most people have been following Satan this entire time while they thought they have been following Jesus.
Facts. Tower of Babel incident. Thousands of years before the Bible was written, it was Enlil, also known as Yahweh in the modern Bible. Satan, the Lord of Eden, E-D-I-N, coming out of Mesopotamia, also Enlil from the Sumerian tablets, known in the Bible as Yahweh, who shows up to find out what happened here in the garden. How come you got your clothes on now? You see, all these stories go back to ancient times, and you find out the real truth, and you begin to realize that I haven't really been worshiping the God that I thought I was worshiping, because that God does exist. I'm gonna keep saying that God does exist. The blueprint or the fingerprint has been laid throughout all creation via the Fibonacci sequence, right? Via pi and phi mathematics. The language of God is mathematics, because you can communicate with any entity in the known universe with mathematics. That's the language of God. Mathematics can describe and give you a breakdown and communicate with anything that actually exists.
Yeah.
And so that's the language of God.
That's why numerology is so accurate.
Yes.
Because
absolutely.
Numbers do not lie.
Numbers don't lie.
Yeah.
Numbers do not lie. And so, but what is going on here? So we realize, okay, that God itself is the creator of all, and most likely is even higher and outside of the dimensions that exist in the known universe. And can enter in here, but also can leave out of here. So God does exist, in my personal opinion, just based on actual science. People think science and Christianity, spirituality go separate. I think that science and spirituality join together and answer a lot of questions.
Absolutely.
Especially quantum physics.
Absolutely.
The quantum physics is explaining what's happening in the spiritual realm. But when you separate the two, you can't see that. But when you bring them together, you go, oh my goodness, this is a bigger picture here. Now I'm understanding how, when I focus my conscious thoughts on something, how it becomes a manifest into reality. But you can see that through quantum physics and quantum mechanics.
I mean, it's Dr. Joe Dispenza is what he talks about in the supernatural.
Yes.
It's how we heal ourselves, right?
Right.
It's us putting the energy, and that frequency that you talk about. One of the things that you've talked heavily about is the story of creation. I'm going to go back to Genesis.
Yeah.
The story of creation. How can just two people have created 8 billion people? Something would have happened scientifically. There would have been some sort of deformity, some sort of breakdown in DNA because these people were so closely related. So I want you to talk about the creation story.
Yeah, the math ain't mathing again. Okay, if I take two people, like you researched me very well. If I take two people, I don't have enough genetic diversity to create an 8 billion civilization on planet Earth, which is what we have right now, about 8 billion people. 8 billion are not coming out of two. And anyone who breeds dogs, horses, pigs, donkeys, whatever, anybody breeding any animals can tell you, you can't do that. You have to have genetic diversity, or you're going to start to have different disabilities, right? People will be born with club feet, mental disabilities, physical disabilities, sight disabilities, and so forth. So you have to have genetic diversity. You need a pool of people to pull from. When you look at the tablets, again, I keep going back to these because you discover a lot of information that makes sense scientifically. In the Garden of Eden, they had these people there. These people were not just Adam. Adam was only the one perfected version of Homo sapien, which is what we are now. But they had recreated more of him. And they had men and women, and they had mating times.
Okay, so when you say they, I want you to describe they.
They are these advanced beings, the Anunnaki, right? The Anunnaki beings that are talked about all throughout time. In the ancient Sumerian tablets, which go back tens of thousands of years, you're talking about the Anuna. In the more recent version of the tablets and the Babylonian version of the tablets, they added the Anunnaki because they are supposedly, the key means earth, and these are the ones who actually took over the earth. And then you have, and also descended from a royal bloodline, which is what it also means, descended from a royal bloodline. And then you have, in the biblical text, you have the Anak. We were grasshoppers in their eyesight, the Bible says.
Because these were massive giant beings.
Yes, massive giant beings. In the Egyptian text, they're called the Nitiru. They're the beings that came from heaven to earth and turned mud into a kingdom at the time of Zep-Tepi. In the Aboriginal verbal handed down history, they're called the Pleiadians. In the Hopi verbal handed down history, they're also called the Pleiadians. Two different civilizations, opposite sides of the planet, same exact people. And you begin to see this link between them, and the Greeks and the Romans renamed them their own names, Zeus and Poseidon and so forth, like they always do. They always rename everything. But these are the beings. These are advanced people, and I do mean people. They weren't little green men with antenna. They look like us, and we look like them. They were distinguishable by their size and their mass, but we look like them. And in the Epic of Atrahasis and in the Enuma Elish, two different texts over slightly different time periods, still thousands of years old,